Hello everyone, Irene Krause of Krause Creations here with the start of a tutorial project. This all started with these particular items, which are, well, they started out as acrylic pour skins, which I then turned into some elements here with polymer clay. And I was trying to put the jump ring into this one, which was supposed to be the pendant. These were supposed to be the earrings. And because of my trimmer, I ended up breaking the tip of it off. So now I am calling it a rescue project, and I'm turning it into a bead embroidery project, which I will be recording and showing to you. But I decided, in my earlier attempt to make this, I decided that, well, I wasn't happy with how it was looking. There was too much of, this was what I was using as my stiffy felt, which is a piece of gray felt. And yes, I decided to make my own, following the directions that Susan of Turtle Soup Beads described for how to make your own stiffy felt. And so I will not be showing you how to do that aspect of things. And you will find a link to her video that will be explaining how to do that in the description area. Eventually, yes, you'll be seeing those. They're off drying right now. So you'll see those as they do that. Let me get my flashlight on here so I can see better what I'm doing. Yes, I got myself a little flashlight I can wear right on my forehead. So I have a little bit more light here on things and see things better. But anyway, let's talk about the colors that I'm using in this. If you look at these closely, you could see that there is, well, I'm focusing in on 4 colors. And no, I'm not going to be able to match them exactly with polymer clay, because even if I got very close to them, of course, polymer clay, once you bake it, it does change its, well, it's either its tone or something. It changes ever so slightly. So I'm going to get close, but I'm not going to be obsessive about it. But there are 4 primary colors that you could see in use in here, either within the clay or the acrylic pour skins, which are turquoisey sort of color, which I'm using this here, which is Fimo Soft, and this is called, I believe it's, well, they call it peppermint. They don't call it turquoise, but it's of that sort of color. There's some white and black in there, which I'm going to use some white, but not some black. I found this, which is a hunk of, I think it's the gray that was used back here. And I'm going to use a little bit more of some of my silver. And this has got some, I think that's copper colored paint that's dried on there. It was used for making something else, and it is dried on there. And yes, that can go right into the polymer clay, so I'm going to mix that with some of the gray. That's going to be one of my colors. So I've got some white, I've got some turquoise, I've got some gray, and now this paint color that's in here, I do remember that much. It was called Worn Penny, which is a dark coppery kind of color. So I'm not going to worry again. I can't get it close. I looked all over. I do not have any copper colored clay around. The best I could come up with is some old clay, which, as you could see, it has a few other things mixed in it. But what I'm going to do is actually tweak this over to getting it more copper colored through doing a variety of techniques. So that's my first step in this, in making some Natasha beads, then some swirly lentil beads that I'll be adapting. That's what I'm calling this. I'm not going to be showing every one of these techniques, because like I said, when there's videos out there that's done by other artists that I think are better than what I could do, I will not be doing it. But I will be doing some of it, because like I said, these techniques have been around for ages. And you'll see my take on it, especially where I'm adapting the swirly lentil bead element to use within bead embroidery. So let's start with getting our colors mixed up here. Okay, moving on to color mixing. I've been mixing colors mainly through paint, obviously, since I was about 3 years old. So obviously I have 60-some years experience with color mixing, but I'll tell you that colors with polymer clay, you can never, that's why when you make something with polymer clay, you need to make up whatever it is you want to make up at the time you're doing it, because colors in polymer clay, they're very hard to repeat. Even trying to, by mixing things, it's just, even batches of clay from one lot to another, they're different from each other. So let's start with this, well, gray mixture, I guess you could call it. Where did I put my gray? Here we go. Now, I don't need a lot of clay for doing what I'm doing. So I'm not going to be mixing up a lot of colors. I'm just going to put a lump of this in there. And now I'm going to start getting it warmed up. I have my pasta machine just off to the right here, where I guess it's out of camera view, but it is. I can move the camera over there so you can see it there a little bit. There's the, you can see the edge of it. But anyway, I'm just going to get this warmed up and start running it. Get out my roller here. Where's my roller? Oh, great. My roller is in here. Well, I guess I will adapt and use something else as a roller. Let me start by getting this clay warmed up. This was actually, yeah, now I do remember what I used that for. I made a jelly roll cane with it, and it did have copper clay in it. So that will work out quite nicely. Get this flattened out a bit. And I'm going to flatten this out too. And I think this was copper foil that I put over on the outside of things. So we're going to stick that in there. Bend the whole thing. Just start running it through. Let me see. Let's, yeah, it is on 1. On my pasta machine, the number 1 is the thickest setting. So I'm going to start with mixing these together. That really dark gray that's in there will be toned down a bit by this lighter gray. And get it warmed up. Okay. This is about the right amount of clay, I think, for what I'm doing. And I think that's pretty well warmed up. As you could see, I lost pretty much all that darkish gray and the copper. Everything's just kind of lost in it all. I still have my mica, and I think there's some glitter in there, which is fine. Now what I'm gonna do now is roll it over and start turning this into, jam it all together on the ends, turning this into a fairly large, in this case, snake. I don't know if I'm going to be using all of this because this turned out to be quite a bit more clay than what I thought. And this looks like it's roughly the 1/4 inch size or so in diameter that I wanted. Okay, we're done with making this. We're going to put that aside. Now, let's start messing with this gold mixture, which I'm actually going to be trying to shift more over to the copper color. And I think I'm going to take half this amount. Where's my blades here? And I don't see where my clay blades are at. Oh, let's just find something I can cut this with. I'm going to put half of this aside, and I'm only going to work with half of this. Yes, I know I have some other scrap colors on here. A little bit of gray and a little bit of white. It's okay. Gets mixed in, you won't ever notice it. Now, what I'm going to do to get it to shift back more to being coppery kind of colored is bring up my alcohol inks. And I want one that's, well, it's a metallic russet, it says. I don't have one that's just plain old red. That's a halo pink gold. That's kind of a coppery colored right there to me. I don't know what it is about rose gold. A lot of these rose golds looks like copper to me. This one looks definitely a bit more red. So let's shake that up. Get this out of the way. And what I'm going to do this is Luminaire metallic acrylic ink, paints, whatever. But that's nicely red. I really like that. So I'm going to put this, spread it out over this gold, which is mostly gold. I know it has some copper in it, but not much. But I'm going to let it out. And I don't think I'm going to need more than one, but I will leave that out just in case I need it. Let me wipe my finger off here. And I got it stained. Lovely. Wonderful. Now, and I get it all over my paintbrush too. My silicone paintbrush. I just love my trimmer. It makes me such a klutz. Okay. Now what we're going to do is pick this up somewhat carefully. And I'm going to put this one side and let that dry. Now that'll take probably 10 or 15 minutes to dry, not very long. But I'll work on some of these other things while I'm doing that. Okay, we've got our gray. We're working on our copper. So let's, well, I know this is not pure white, but that's okay. It's whitish enough, and I don't think I want quite this much. Where's that gizzy thing I was using? Well, this is close enough. That's it. Let's just chop a hunk of this white off. And let's start getting this warmed up. These clays were at one time or another all conditioned, so they're not as stiff as if they came fresh out of the package. And that one's picking up a little bit of the silver something that I was just running through there a while ago. That's okay. Like I said, I am not hung up about purities of colors, because after all, in assembling this into what I guess you would call either a scrap cane or a blank, depending upon what field, what sort of thing you want to call it, but anyway, okay. That's nice. Now let's start turning this into a log. And what I'm going to do with this, now where did I put that? Oh, that's down here. I have some gold leaf. Well, actually what I'm using in this case is copper leaf. I'm going to, well, I got some gold on there, but that's okay. I am not hung up about color in this case. Okay, what we're gonna do is roll this in the copper leaf and take off. And if it gets a little bit extra, that's fine. There. Now we have some copper leaf into our mixture. My idea being, I'm trying to get a nice mixture of some things into my blank or scrap cane or whatever the heck it is you want to call this item, the first item that I'm going to be creating. It has some glitz to it. I like glitz. I like things to be pretty and a bit sparkly. And this will get distributed within my cane. Now, let's bring out our turquoise, because we have our other 3 of our 4 colors. And I keep getting copper leaf on me. So like I said, if a little bit of the other things get mixed in with other things, I don't get hung up about that, because it's all going to get sort of mixed up together in the wash of things anyway. So we can get this opened. I need my little cutter tool. There's no sense in getting in a pelter about these things, trying to keep colors nice and pure, because they're going to get mixed up together anyway. Come on, pop open, will ya? And this is Fimo. The rest of this is all Primo. That's okay. They can get mixed together, and I'm only going to take a little bit of this. Like I said, maybe I will take 2 things of this. So I do want there to be, I'll probably end up cutting it in 2. There. And there we have some turquoise. Now, am I satisfied with just ordinary, well, I guess they want to call it peppermint, but I'm calling it turquoise. Pick up whatever I can that's sitting here on my glass mat. And I'm gonna roll this down a bit. Now, this being the Fimo Soft, it'll get warmed up real fast for me. So, let me pick it up here. And I can already feel it's loosening up for me. I guess I got more things on here than I thought. So let's start running it through. Pause the machine a few times. Get it very nicely woke up for me. And that's actually not as much as I thought it was going to be. Do I want to get more clay out? No. I think I'll stick with what I got. Okay. Now this, a little sticky now, nicely. I decided I would add some glitter to. Now this is Martha Stewart's Ultra Fine, and that's the turquoise color. I think that's the one. Yeah, I don't see. Some of these don't want to latch down very tight. No, these other blues are just... Here's a lighter, that's more green. What's that called? Feldspar? Yeah, that's too green. I think that... Let's see, that's silver. That's a black. It's another sort of black. It's a copper. That's definitely a green. No, I think I'm going to go with this. Now, I don't want to put too much in here. Because, let's use the little side. Because I want it to maintain its nicely sticky clay texture. So let's run this through our pasta machine a few times. And we're going to roll this into a log. Smash the ends together a bit. And it looks like I got some air in there. Let me air is the enemy of things in polymer clay. I don't want there to be any air. Okay. Like I said, I think I'm going to cut that silverish color down. Not use quite so much of it. Okay, is this dry yet? It's close. I'll have to let it sit for a bit longer. Okay, this is finally dry. So let's start mixing this paint into our gold clay. So now this is the original color, and this is the slightly more coppery looking color. That's good. I got enough here to make 2 of this. Okay, so let's bring this, and I got some air bubbles in there. I think I'm going to make 2 of this too. Okay, so now we're going to start work on assembling our, well, whatever it is you want to call it that we're making at this point, your scrap cane or your blank or whatever it is. Now, I am going to bring all of this into it. Roll that out, be a bit thinner. We're going to bring that in. I only want to bring 1/2 of this in there. Now, get off whatever clay I got on here. And now you'll kind of understand why I'm not in a real pelter about these colors getting mixed up, because they're all going to start getting mixed up together anyway. So I start squishing them together and rolling it to make one great big mass. And yeah, I know my table's shaking all over. And then I'm going to start twisting. And I want to twist this, and you see how that wonderful copper leaf is breaking all up just like I want it to. And we're going to bring that together. I'm going to roll this together like this, actually, and again bring it into one great big solid lump. This is another good way for working the air out, because as I said, air is the enemy of your polymer clay. Now I'm going to twist it. I didn't get a very good twist on it the first time. I can get a better twist on it this time. And bring it all together, smoosh and squeeze. And I do think I'm going to actually cut it in half. No, see, my colors are still just a bit too defined, so I'm going to definitely twist it good one more time. let's roll it out. I want it to be, oh, something between 1 inch and 1/2 inch in diameter. And I think I'm going to twist it one more time. And squeeze. And then roll it on out. And now we've got something about, it's somewhere between 1 inch, it's closer to 3/4 of an inch to me. So there's my blank, ready for the next step of things. Now, in case I haven't said before, I am not going to be recording how I'm making the Natasha bead effect, because Allison of Thinking Outside of the Box did one almost identical to what I'm going to be doing roughly a year ago on her channel, so I will be referring you to that one. What I am going to be showing you is my take of doing the lentil beads. And yes, I'm going to be using, well, I bought this from RJ Crafts. I know they've renamed themselves recently. I'll have to look up and see what their new name is. But this is called their lentil bead roller, which is what I'm going to be using here in this. Which, well, let me flip it over here. Or which way does it go? I have to remember which way. There it goes. There, now I can read it. Okay. This is an aid. You don't need to have this, by the way. You could actually use any sort of a flat, preferably clear, flat surface type. I've used CD covers in the past. Another big favorite is like acrylic rollers. However, I was watching another video by, and I don't remember what his name is, and I do apologize for that, but this was a gentleman that was doing all these wonderful, very precise methods of rolling things, and that's what he had done, was broke the sphere of things down into an X shape like this, cross shape, whatever it is you want to call it. And that's how he was placing his colors that was going on his ball that he was using for his lentil bead. Now, I actually want to turn this into a square, and I do need to take the size down even smaller. So I'm going to start, well, actually, let's cut this in half, because I think this is still just a bit, considering, yes, I'm going to be reducing it even more. Get this out of the way. I don't want, my acrylic block is only so big, and I'm going to be using this to help flatten each side so that I can start getting this into a squarish kind of shape. And I'm going to be also making it smaller in width. This is right now, well, it's almost where I want it. I want it to be about 1/2 inch. Oh geez, that's really starting to bother me. Where's my... Let's get some of these paint things off my glass things, so that's out of my way. Anyway, back to this. We're going to keep compressing it just a bit more so that we can get it into a fairly... it's still a bit too big. Because I want my beads to be quite small. Because after all, well, some of these beads I'm going to be using in the beading aspect, the bead embroidery aspect of this project, and others will be used in the necklace portion of assembling and turning the pendant into a finished jewelry item. And I think I'm just about there insofar as the sizing of this. One's end seems to still be a bit bigger than the other end. So let's start with this bigger end, and I'm going to take, well, I'm not too sure because I haven't actually ever done this before in this I mean, I've done these sort of things before many times, but I've never tried to make one exactly this size. So I'm going to start by taking, and there goes my washer if you're hearing that in the background. It plays a little tune when it's done. I'm going to take off roughly 1/4 of an inch here. I'm actually going to use, I think, this video because I think I've somewhat perfected my technique in doing this. We're taking, again, a little 1/2 inch chunk in our block of clay, whatever it is you want to call this, blank, scrap clay, cane, whatever it is you want to call that. And I'm starting out with rolling this into a ball. Again, this is the traditional swirly bead lentil making, which has been demonstrated many, many times in the past. Well, it's sort of an roundish ball. It's sort of still squarish, but it's, let me see if I can roll it a little bit more and get it into more of a ball. Okay, now as you'll notice when looking at this, we can see some of the white, the mix of colors of clay here. Sorry, I'm trying to, I didn't realize it, but unfortunately my light makes a wonderful glare there on my glass top here. But anyway, I'm trying to point out that what I'm trying to do here is I'm taking advantage of, see here, I've got all the mix of colors that I want, and even a little bit of that copper foil popping up there. that I want to show up. Now on this side again, I've got my white and my turquoise and, well, whatever it is you want to call this color, sort of a coppery gold. Anyway, I'm starting out doing my rolling sort of halfway between those, because when you're rolling your ball, the swirl is actually coming from the sides of the ball. In other words, where I now have these colors positioned. So I'm sort of rolling to start where there's not all those colors, which means that they will pull up from the sides and come in to the center, because that's where your swirl comes from, is from the sides, not the center, because the swirl is pulling everything from the outer edges of your ball. As you can see here, it's pulling it from the outer edges into the center. So whatever it is you want to be showing up as your swirl needs to be along the outer edges of your ball. And I got a real nice swirl on this side. The side's pretty good too. I'll do it just a little bit more to give that swirl a chance to improve on the back side of things. Oh, yes. Much nicer. Now, once again, this is the trick that I've learned, that one trick that I'm doing this that I don't think others are talking much about. Now, I want, like I said, I want a triangular shape for my finished bead, not a round one in this case. So I'm going to start by starting to flatten my lentil shape, and I'm going to twist it as I'm doing that. Now let me flip it over. Hopefully you're going to be able to see this. The camera's going to focus nicely for you. See, this is improving the swirl effect. It's not much of a tweak, but it is a little bit of a tweak. And now I have a nice, wonderfully swirled and flattened lentil. But as I said, what in this case I want is a triangular shape. So what I'm going to do is decide, where do I want my triangular peaks? And I think right there. So now I'm taking my acrylic block and I'm pinching it a little bit with my index finger and thumb, and using the acrylic block as a barrier, I'm shoving it against that, and that means I'm changing its shape from being round to being triangle. And I can twist it a bit, and if I need to, flatten it again and twist to swirl it again as I'm doing so. But I'm going to keep pressing against my acrylic block and turning it on all sides as I'm doing so to keep it fairly flattened. Now there. That is This is a very nicely shaped bead, plus it is flattened to the extent that I want this to be. Now, if I wanted to take this as I did for these, for my bead embroidery, I'm actually not going to record this part of it because my hands are starting to shake because I've been using them so much. I'm not sure if I could reliably do this. But what I would do is very carefully, I would slice this in half this way. And that way I will get a thinner triangle. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do it just so you see it. Hopefully my hands aren't going to shake too bad. If I steady my hand here on the edge of my table, I think I can do this. I just very, very gently slice into it. Obviously, I don't want to slice me. That would not be good. Very gently slice that in two. So, and now my hand wants to spasm. Sorry about that. It's going to relax here in a minute and I can use it again. There it's starting to go. Okay. As you can see, I have now a much thinner version that I would probably poke a hole in each of these corners so that they can be anchored then down in my bead embroidery. Okay, as promised, I said I would bring you back once I got all of my beads made, and I'm going to be getting ready to put them into the oven and baking. So let me just bring them over here so you could see what they look like at this point. As I said before, I don't like to drill. I don't like to do a lot of sanding, and I don't like putting my holes into my beads until I'm actually ready to use them in some way. But for these, what I've done is these are my flatter ones that will be used in my bead embroidery. These are done much the same way that you would do, like, I guess you could say buttons, except I only put one hole in them. And those are my flatter ones. Some are a little bit bigger than others, but that's okay. They'll get used. There's another one over here that's kind of big. So those get used along with my cut in half triangles. I have some of these Natasha bead style beads that they're ready to be baked, and I'll have to drill them out. I do usually put in what I call starter holes in them, just so my drill bit doesn't pass around on them when I'm trying to drill them. Some of these, again, are bigger than others, and I got hair on these from something. I don't have pets, so I don't know where the hair is coming from. But anyway, now, will I be applying a finish to them? Now, in this case, yes, I'm aware there is some glitter in there that I had added, as well as the foil. And ordinarily, you would want to put a finish of some sort onto these beads so as to seal them in. But there's so little of the foil and the glitter evident. These ones here I might need to seal, the bigger Natasha beads. So I may be sealing those. And I forgot to put starter holes on this one as well. So let's poke a couple starter holes on that one. There. Those I think I will need to seal because there is more of the glitter and the foil evident on them. Maybe I will do all of them just to be sure so that they'll look the same. Because these are, I don't know exactly how many of them I'll be using in the final project, but I have them here and they are all intended to be used within this project in one way or another, either within the necklace aspect of things or the bead embroidery. But anyway, this is how they're looking prior to baking and of course final finishing. I don't intend on doing a lot of sanding on them, and I will, when I get to the bead embroidery part, then I will explain whatever it is I decided to do insofar as sealing them. So that's it, and it's going to be this is going to be the end of this particular video. It's showing how I'm prepping my beads for my project, and I'll pick things up later on when these are baked and whatever finish it is that's on them, and we'll go on with the bead embroidery project. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.